Okay, let's start. Let's call it to order. City Clerk.
Councilmember Agency Director Mann.
Present.
Marcus. Here. Cilio.
Here.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Smith.
Here.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Pastor John Medders from Christian Life Assembly will do the invocation.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for this rain. And Lord, we needed it. And Lord, we pray that you spread it out, though, that we don't have flooding. Thank you for this council and the leaders that you've placed over our city. I pray your blessing, wisdom, and unity upon them. Lord, our hearts go out again to the people in Haiti, and we pray that you would meet every need there and provide for them. Now, Lord, with the business that's before this council tonight, I pray that your will be done on heaven as it is in earth. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Marcus.
Place your flag and put your hand over your heart and begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have some presentations this evening. Would you hand me this when I come up?
Absolutely.
Thank you. How are you? The first one is Stephen Molina from Eastside High School. Okay, you got your speech ready? No, I'm kidding. Come on over here. Stephen Molina, did I pronounce it right?
Yeah.
Good. Is a two-sport star at Eastside High School, excelling at cross-country and track while maintaining a 4.1 GPA, which qualifies him as a valedictorian candidate. Stephen qualified for the state cross-country tournament for the second year, finishing third in the CIF prelims, fourth in the finals, 41st in the state. Whereas Stephen was the Golden Lake cross-country champion and the Valley Press Runner of the Year, Stephen placed first at the Clovis Invitational and Yucaipa Invitational and won his heat at the Mount Sac Invitational. Stephen also stars as an 800-meter, 1,600-meter, 3,200-meter runner for Eastside track team. He has been accepted to Cal State Northridge, but is also being recruited by Cal Poly Pomona. He is planning to major in engineering or English. He volunteers at the San Fernando Valley Partnership Drug Prevention Program, and he helps with their annual Youth Summit. Congratulations for being our Student of the Month.
Thank you.
Actually, the Athlete of the Month and the Student of the Month. I'm not quite sure what is more remarkable, the grade point or the athletes, but the fact that you're both is a wonderful testament. Thank you. We're also honoring Herberto Colazo. Mr. Colazo is a park ranger. He has been with us since August 7th, 2005. He works high-profile events. He does the foot patrol at El Dorado Park. On September 24th, 2009, Ranger Colazo identified a suspected child predator that had recently been approaching and soliciting young patrons. Acting on a tip from a park patron, he called sheriffs to advise as to the whereabouts of the suspect. After consulting with Deputy Hayworth of the Lancaster Station, Park Ranger Colazo, along with 2 ranger trainees, followed the suspect into the community. The suspect was apprehended in the neighborhood adjacent to the park and detained until the sheriff's deputies arrived. The suspect was identified by the victim's parents as the perpetrator of an incident on September 20th, 2009, where he was alleged to have offered several young patrons money to perform lewd acts. The suspect positively identified by the deputy as a registered sex offender and child predator and was subsequently placed under arrest. That is an idea of what these guys have to contend with in our parks. Thank you very much. Yes. This is a big day and they're late. Okay, as soon as they get here, would you let me know? Are they here?
I'm here, Mr. Mayor, on getting this underway. There was a misunderstanding about the time, so I can work with you, or I think he'll be here.
No, as soon as he gets here, let me know, and we'll interrupt, and we'll do it then, okay? Thank you. Okay, all speaker cards must be filled out and submitted prior to the agenda item being called. The same rule applies if you wish to speak on a non-agendized items at the end of the meeting. Following this process will allow us to conduct a timely and orderly meeting. Thank you. City Manager, anything to be removed?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any items on the agency consent calendar need to be pulled for discussion?
I'll move that we adopt the agency consent calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
You know, Jerry, tomorrow there's an historic event. It will change the world. Apple is coming out with the tablet. Perhaps we should invest. Good. Okay, continuing on. Redevelopment public hearing number 1 was continued from the meeting of January 12th, 2010, and remains open. There is one speaker card. From Jennifer Fawn. Did you bring back my notebook?
I do have it. It's been in good use since you gave it to me. Okay. Good evening, council members. Again, my name is Jennifer Fan. I'm a staff attorney with Neighborhood Legal Services. I want to thank the members of the council tonight to let me speak regarding the 5-year plan and thank the mayor for a copy of the plan from 2 weeks ago. I just wanted to point out several things regarding the plan. The plan purports to comply with relevant sections of the California Community Redevelopment Law, but there are some critical flaws of the plan that I want to point out to you tonight. The main section that addresses the agency's compliance with the law is in section 6.0. And when you actually look at the section, the plan tells you to look at certain tables, which says that they comply with the law. I want to point out these tables to you tonight. They include tables 8 and tables 11. Basically, there's some crucial information that's missing from the plan. Number 1, it doesn't tell us the number of market rate units that has been developed or substantially rehabited. And number 2, it doesn't tell us the units of affordable units that are at the moderate, low, or very low income levels. Without this information, we can't even calculate the number of inclusionary housing obligation that the agency must comply with, let alone figure out whether the agency has complied or not. If you actually look at table 8 and 11, they talk about the dwelling units that has been produced since 2004, 2005 to 2013 and 2014. When you look at the first column, dwelling units produced, everything's at 0, meaning that no dwelling units have been produced from 2004 all the way to 2014. And the same thing for inclusionary obligations. Their totals at 0. So obviously there's some critical information missing here. And in terms of units demolished or destroyed, if you take a look at the third to last column, the agency does make us aware that there are certain units that are being developed and destroyed. And they did say that there are certain units that are restricted, but there's no information on these units at all, whether they're replacement units or whether they're new units being developed for going towards their inclusionary housing. So basically, there's a lot of information that's missing from the plan, which makes the plan both inaccurate and incomplete. Another thing I want to point out is that the plan is not clear on the expenditures of the low and moderate income funds and what they've been doing with it for the last 5 years, which needs to be addressed in the plan. Also, regarding the public notice requirements for this hearing. Basically, I know that we continued it from 2 weeks ago, but as far as I can tell, there's been no notice of the continued hearing. I've been looking at the AV Press, there's been no notice, and just at the lobby itself right here, I don't see any notice letting the public know that they have this opportunity to comment on the plan. So lastly, I urge the council to reject the recommendation to adopt this incomplete and inadequate plan and have the agency fully amend the plan to include the critical information that is needed.
Thank you very much. Is Liz here? So, talk to us.
Al Holloman is here from Urban Futures Incorporated, who actually did the report, and the tables have been changed, and he's reviewing them right now, but the tables do reflect what we are to report pursuant to California redevelopment law. And the report does show how many replacement housing we have done. It does show in the report how many inclusionary housing units that we have, how many that we will have in the next 5 years, and also has what we've already done in replacement housing for those that we have demolished and what we potentially will demolish in the 5 years. So it is in the report.
Mr. Mayor, I would also add that I think the report is excellent about the expenditure of funds and the accomplishments over the last 5 years, both in economic development and housing. I think it very clearly does do that. If there are some questions, we'd be happy to sit down and talk afterwards as well, too, if there's some confusion, or we can meet at a later date as well, too. But I think the report's very clear, and Al Holloman is available to answer any questions.
I get the sense that your concern is not substantive but procedural. Is that correct?
It is substantive as well. I mean, she's speaking about a report where the numbers truly do reflect the number of inclusionary obligations and how many units have been replaced, but they're not in this implementation plan. The numbers I see are all at 0, so I don't know how I would address the true numbers if it's not made available.
Thank you. I would request that that you schedule a meeting and you meet with them and deal with it that way. We could.
Al's going to talk.
Mr. Haldeman, do you have something to add? Why don't you come up to the speakers thing? And thank you, Ms. Fan. Ms. Fan, if I need you, I'll call you back. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor and members of the council. Actually, the point she raises is valid and yet invalid at the same time. On page 102, we explain the way Lancaster deals with this inclusionary housing obligation, and Lancaster is actually very proactive. Under the law, what you're required to do is when homes are built within project areas by persons other than the agency, 15% of those homes have to be made affordable. 60% of that has to be for low and moderate income households, 40% has to be for very low income households. When they're actually constructed by the agency, 30% of those units have to be made affordable. What Lancaster did years ago when the agency was established is they looked at their inclusionary obligation based upon the maximum number of houses that could be built in the project area over their lives based upon the general plan and started counting towards that number. So their inclusionary numbers you see in here are based upon, in theory, what could possibly be built. They're extremely ambitious and proactive in terms of how they deal with affordable housing because, in effect, they've set a goal that they want to achieve. So therefore, when houses are actually built, we don't count them because they've already counted everything to the end of the project life per the general plan that could ever be built. So they're working towards a goal, and they're actually going to exceed it within the next 5 years, probably 15 years ahead of schedule.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, let me address the...
Let me ask you first, do you see any problems with the notice issue?
That's just what I was going to address.
Thank you. Great minds think alike.
When a public hearing is noticed in the newspaper and then continued, there is no legal requirement to republish a notice of the continued hearing. And so the notice, once published, is sufficient for all of the continued hearings.
Okay, thank you.
Second thing, I'd like to just add that I've seen a large number of implementation plans over the years, and this one is by far the most complete of all of those implementation plans. I think it's a thorough job. I think it complies with all the requirements of the law.
Thank you very much. Any discussion?
Yeah, the other issue is that, I think is it Ms. Fawn?
Yes.
Said that we didn't post it.
Fan.
That we didn't post it on the outside of the building here and stuff, but isn't the agenda, as we see it now, posted? And so that means that CRPH1 is included on what was posted out front. Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we adopt the Lancaster Redevelopment Agency 5-year implementation plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Let's vote. And it's unanimous. Moving on to the consent calendar. Anything to be removed?
I'll move that we adopt the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Let's vote.
It's PH1.
It's unanimous. Moving on to PH1, we'll open the public hearing. Any communications?
No, sir.
Thank you. We have one speaker card. It would be Jason Evans.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. My name is Jason Evans, and I'm here today on behalf of my company, Tuso Energy, in support of Ordinance Number 941. Tuso is a venture-backed utility-scale solar developer focused on mid-sized photovoltaic plants in Southern California. Approximately 3 months ago, we acquired rights to about 200 acres of fallow, previously ag land at West 100th Street and Avenue I along the western border of the city of Lancaster. This land is relatively flat, there are very few neighbors, and 2 large Southern California Edison substations are nearby. Overall, this site, which is zoned rural residential, is really perfect for solar development. We have taken a number of preliminary steps to develop this property. We have negotiated a 20-year contract with Southern California Edison so that we have an off-taker for the power if we successfully build this plant. Although there's a great deal of congestion on the Southern California grid in general, we have had an initial meeting with the California grid operator where they indicated that we would likely be able to deliver power via the existing utility infrastructure. Over the past couple months, we have also completed a number of the studies, biological, cultural, phase 1, et cetera, that would be required to support a conditional use permit application, and we plan on submitting that CUP application in the next few weeks. Returning to the ordinance, I believe that photovoltaic plants are a great use for rural residential land that now lies vacant and unused. These plants will provide renewably generated electricity year-round with very low visual impact and only minimal water requirements. While passage of this ordinance is not likely to open the floodgates to solar power plant development, because we will continue to need the conditional use permit to develop, it will allow the city to take selective advantage of the economic benefits and green jobs creation that can accompany large-scale solar development. For example, our proposed project would directly create over 100 construction jobs, as well as jobs to meet ongoing maintenance requirements at the plant. As firm believers in the promise of renewable energy, we would also make it a high priority to provide learning opportunities for local elementary and middle schools. We are firmly committed to the success of this project in Lancaster, and we would greatly appreciate your help with the passage of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, we really would like to open the floodgates to alternative energy, just so you know. Okay. Any discussion?
I'll move that we close the public hearing.
Okay. Public hearing's closed. Is there...
I'll move that we adopt ordinance number 941.
Introduce.
Introduced. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. And it's unanimous. Moving on to public hearing item number 2.
We have no speakers cards, Mr. Mayor.
I'd still like to hear the staff report. It's just been so long since I've heard from you, Mr. Ludicky.
Well, you could have heard from me at the last one, too, but you don't hear me complaining.
We all need the practice.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, what's before you this evening is a resolution that would adjust, for the purposes of the City of Lancaster's collection process, the Los Angeles County fire fee. This fee is collected on any plan check or actually building permit that's issued within the City of Lancaster. What it goes to is to fund capital projects as part of the Los Angeles County Fire Department's Fire Protection District that serves the area. Periodically, the capital improvement program for that is updated by Los Angeles County Fire Department and adopted by the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. The City of Lancaster, as a part of the Fire Protection District, then needs to adopt the resolution that establishes the ability for us to collect those fees on behalf of the County of Los Angeles Fire Department. Those fees are collected, as I said, through the building permit process, and minus a small administrative fee are then sent directly to Los Angeles County Fire. The current fire fee for the area is a little over 86 cents per square foot. The fee amount, as adopted by the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors in November, is about 1.3 cents higher than that, 0.8755 per square foot. We would recommend that you adopt this resolution. That will allow us to continue to collect the updated fee and make sure that over the long term, necessary capital facilities and equipment are paid for from a fire protection standpoint.
Does that money stay local?
There are 3 different fire protection districts that collect fees. The overall capital improvement program for each one is set up, and it's based upon need and expected development. There are actually 2 things that the county looks at when they develop or look at developing fire stations. One is when do they expect to have the necessary funds in place? That's obviously a product of how much development they expect over a period of time. They work with us on determining that. The second thing is they will not build a station and man it until they are convinced that they are going to have a certain number of dwelling units within the service area of that station, because they need to make sure that they collect sufficient ongoing tax revenue to man the station. It's important to note that this fee only applies to the capital facilities themselves.
Mr. Ludig?
Yes.
Does the money stay in Lancaster?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 942.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Let's vote.
Actually,
Wasn't that resolution 10-5?
it's a resolution.
Yeah.
942 is on the next
Yeah.
item.
Oh,
10:05.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
So it's okay.
I'll change the motion. I move that we adopt resolution number 10-05.
And I second that.
Thank you.
She wasn't going to let us vote till we got it right anyway. Okay, great. Let's finish with new business item 1, and then we'll go on to that, okay? Planning Director? Any
There's no speakers cards, Mr. Mayor?
Okay.
Very briefly, Mayor Paris and members of the City Council. Back in 2008, the City Council established the Architectural and Design Planning Commission, which, as you well know, has gone through quite an effort and presented to you design guidelines, which the Council adopted last December. As a part of the adoption of that, or the creation of the ADC, one of the things that was placed into the municipal code was how appeals would be handled in the case where staff and an applicant could not reach agreement. Those appeals are heard by the ADC, and the code also provides that if there is a decision of the ADC that an applicant is not satisfied with, that appeal right now would go directly to you as the City Council. However, most projects that are development in nature have to go through the city's regular planning commission. And there is a concern that the way the code currently reads, we could have a situation where there is an appeal that is heard by the City Council prior to a decision on the part of the regular Planning Commission as to whether or not the project itself would be approved. There are a couple of problems, we think, with this. Number one, it does raise the scenario where you could have someone attempting to use a decision of the City Council as leverage against the City's Planning Commission. There's also the real possibility that if there is a controversial project, and if you think back to a couple of our West Side commercial projects, that scenario could play out, where prior to our Planning Commission actually hearing and making a recommendation and decision on that project, they would be in front of you on the issue of some design aspect of it. We think from the standpoint of due process, it's really a lot cleaner if the appeal for any decision of the ADC first goes to the city's planning commission, normally to be heard concurrently with the review of the project itself. Once again, if anyone was dissatisfied at that point with the regular planning commission decision, it would of course be appealable to you as the city council. So as a board, you retain the ultimate decision in those situations.
Thank you. Any discussion? Close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt ordinance 942 this time.
I'll second that.
And it's unanimous. Okay, we're going to present an award now, and I know that there's a lot of tension in the room, and I understand that tension, and we're going to have the opportunity to express all of it. But for the next 10 minutes, this is really a tremendous time that I would like everybody to join in the celebration of what occurred. And so if we can just lighten the mood for that purpose, this is really huge what was accomplished, and we would like to celebrate it. And so if Danny Ubario would come up. Did I pronounce the name right? Yes, sir. Okay. Come on over here. Why don't you bring your family down, or anything here? My wife's here. Okay. You want to come down? This is something that rarely happens. Now, it did happen yesterday, but it was the sheriff of Los Angeles County that got this. It's only been given twice before that. So what your husband has accomplished was truly amazing. Should we bring your boss down too, so she knows exactly who she has working for her? A year ago, it was just a year ago, this city was literally overrun with pit bulls. I mean, there wasn't a day that went by somebody wasn't talking to me about it, somebody wasn't frightened about it, and there was a lot of controversy with us in animal control. We weren't really getting along at that moment in time. And it was a situation where we did not, and none of us, I think, expected success. And then Danny came in, took over the animal control up here, and over 1,000 pit bulls, 1,034 pit bulls have been taken off our streets, all because of Danny's work. There was another 100 and some other vicious dogs that were also removed. You've done an amazing job, and on top of all of that, I mean, you would think that the services of the animal control would start to break down when it's inundated with over 1,000 pit bulls. But in fact, the reverse happened. What happened is complaints disappeared. People became much more satisfied with the service of the whole facility. And you've been taking care of the citizens of Lancaster in an exemplary way. But more importantly, you've made us much, much safer. And you've made our children safer. And for that, we are presenting you with the key to the city. And like I said, you're the fourth person to ever have received this. Only once.
Thank you.
Yeah. I shouldn't have done this to her. I didn't even tell her. Ben, do a speech for us.
That's fine, thank you. I'd just like to thank Mayor Paris and the council for this honor. Danny has been working very, very hard to make the community safer for the residents of Lancaster. We take our responsibility to the community and the city very seriously, and we're very honored to be recognized. And Danny really should be very proud for all the hard work he's put in here. And I think his background as a Marine has really helped out a lot, but he's getting things into shape. And we're just very happy to be partners with this community. We'd like to invite you also to come by our shelter this summer. We're expanding. We have additional dog kennel building, cattery, horse barn, and a new spay neuter clinic. So we are growing as well, and we hope you will find a pet when you come visit us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on. City manager.
I have three announcements to go over. One, we will be giving you a more detailed report, but our crews did a fantastic job, primarily Public Works, but a lot of them in dealing with what is now being termed apparently the Western Wallop, which was the storm series we had last week, where it dumped 3.75 inches of rain on the city of Lancaster. I don't think people realize how difficult it is to deal with that much rain in that time. Our crews did a fantastic job. Some of the unseen things, we had some out till 1 a.m. Building a makeshift dam to protect Valley View School. They made sure that the system worked. As I talked to the mayor, who was talking to me a lot in preparation for the storms, we understand that the time to prepare for a storm is before the storm hits. So over the last couple of months, they've been clearing drainage ditches, basins, et cetera, and they're now working on it to be prepared for the next series of storms. So they did a really fantastic job, all of our folks. The second item, we actually have two national awards that were won, one by a city staffer and one by a member of our city council. The first is our own Joe Cabral was named the Public Information Officer of the Year by a national media outlet. And I'd like to first off have...
That's incredible. That's national. Well,
when this new council came on board, in particular with Mayor Paris, they really put a priority on communicating more and engaging the citizens. And it was quickly obvious to me that I didn't have the technical skills to do that, so I did the smart thing and hired someone who did. Joe has been not only incredibly good, but his staff is energized and does the work of a staff 3 times that size. And he always does it with a smile, and he's a great guy to have around, so we really appreciate Joe Cabral.
thank you, Joe.
And lastly, in a Google search, we found out that our own mayor, R.X. Paris, was named by Lawyers USA as having the #1 verdict, jury verdict in the United States for 2009, $370 million. They actually do a top 10, and they count it down, and congratulations on being #1.
Thank you very much.
That concludes my announcements.
Thank you very much. City Clerk?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time for public business from the floor on non-agendized items. Any person who would like to address the City Council, you will find speaker cards at the back of the council chambers. We ask that you fill the speaker cards out completely and clearly, and we respectfully request that you print as clearly as possible so that if necessary, the City Council or the City Manager will be able to get in touch with you. As much as we appreciate your request to make comments before your 3 minutes begin, please understand your time does begin when the clock starts. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. If you choose to ask a question during this time, any response by council will not extend your 3 minutes. When you approach the podium, you will see 3 lights. The green light comes on when you begin, the yellow light comes on when you have 30 seconds left, and the red light comes on when your time is up. We ask that you be considerate of the allotted time to allow other speakers to have their 3 minutes as well. Following this procedure will allow for a smooth and timely process for the meeting, and we do appreciate your cooperation. State law prohibits the City Council and the agency from taking action on items that are not on the agenda, so your matter will be referred to the City Manager. Thank you.
Okay, we have all the speaker cards in. Did you want to put one in? Okay, I just want to make sure all the cards are in. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. David Allen. David. It's last in, first out.
How are you doing? Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff.
Good evening.
Citizens. 10 seconds gone. Can I get them back? 15 now.
David, for you, anything.
Starting my time over. Thank you very much. I got a letter here from the city regarding getting some records with respect to the parking enforcement issue that we have, and apparently we can't verify the officer that was on my street the other day when the incident happened, so that's not what I came for. But I came here tonight due to the recent events surrounding the handling of the nomination papers on January 20th by the Lancaster city officials, which resulted in adding a nominee, myself, on January 22nd, 2 days after the closing period. It's my position that the absentee ballots for the April 13th election be counted on the night of the election. This is the best way to ensure any further chance of any issues which would raise questions about the safeguards of the integrity of the ballot counting process, and would protect and ensure equal protection to all nominees and candidates on April 13th. From my past experience over the past decade of Lancaster elections, this would still allow for the outcome of the election in a timely fashion, without any burden that would eliminate the unnecessary cost of the present practice of counting the absentee ballots early, and would remove any doubt of due process and fairness. I hope that, I know you can't take actions on what I've just said, but hopefully I'm wishing that maybe you guys, if I need to contact one of the members on the council and get this on the agenda, I think that we could take care of this, here within the city and not have to involve other officials. And that would be my intent, to make sure that the integrity of this election, that there's no further possible appearance, as in the election book says, appearance of impropriety or impropriety itself, which is right in the nomination paper books. It's a very serious federal, state, and local level that comes with very serious penalties, and it's right in the nominees candidates book. I got about 30 seconds left, but I won't waste everybody's time. I hope that, that with respect to what I've just said, that if all the ballots are counted the night of the election, it might take another 2 or 3 hours, but that's what elections were about when I grew up. They were fun. Wait until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to see the results. And just because we're in the computer age and everything, hey, let's go back to have some fun. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. I think now would be a good time. I'm going to turn the floor over to Sherry Marcus.
Some of you may know that there's a bit of a swirling going on, and I have been contacted the last few days by several people, and I have not responded until tonight. I posted something on my Facebook on Saturday morning that was my reaction to an article that I read that morning about another yet heinous crime, and it was the beheading of a Muslim woman by her husband that took place in New York. And my reaction to that has now affected those at the city, and to you, I apologize. I was Saturday morning and still am very disturbed. Every time I read or hear about these horrific crimes against women and young girls, and I will continue to voice my opinion and speak out about it, and I believe everyone should agree with me that this barbaric behavior of some has got to stop, and it must be condemned. And that's my statement.
Thank you. Del Preston?
Good evening, Mayor Paris and council members.
Good evening.
All due respect, I'd like to allocate my 3 minutes to Mr. Kamal Al-Khatib, if that's okay.
I'm sorry, that would violate the rules and the procedure.
That would violate?
That's correct.
Okay.
Everybody gets 3 minutes. If you'd like to use them, you're more than welcome to.
I would, wasn't prepared for this, but I'll use them.
Okay.
I understand what the lady council member says, but when you blanket or when you say a statement or consider all Muslims as being in that particular vein or having those kind of ways, you don't know about al-Islam. Islam is a religion of peace and love. But you hear all these erratic people of like that situation. I've never been around people like that, but you do have these things happening. I read the Quran and I pray my prayers, and I pray that this practice stops, because this is not right. How can you consider God, Allah? Allah would not do something like this. Allah would not make this or say that you could do this. That type of thing is wrong. And we have to understand and not do these things. And what we do as Americans, a lot of times, always influence the world. But don't just accept what you hear in the media. Read and find out for yourself what al-Islam is about. Don't just, when you read an article, say, oh, all Muslims are like this. I would very much be against, and I am very much against, any kind of situation as you mentioned. That's not right. There are things you hear about, even with terrorists going to paradise for blowing up millions of people and causing a lot of harassment. They're not going to paradise. Do you think Allah God would support anything like this, any harm to any person here in any country around the world? Allah is about love, and we have to be about love and understand each other. We do not understand, okay, we do not understand Islam. I did not understand Islam until I studied it. I read my Quran every day and I study it. When a situation comes up, I ask the elders about those situations. I would not condone, and I do not condone, any type of death or destruction by any Muslim, and I know the Muslim community does not either. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Preston. David Paul. Mr. Paul, that was a great picture this morning.
Next time you'll have to stand next to me. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, good evening. I don't know how many of you enjoy Wayne Dyer, but he said something a few years ago that struck me, because I agree with what he said. He said that he's at the point in his life where he just wants to be happy. And that's what I want. You know, I found that the easiest way to love your enemies is to just not have any. But that is sometimes difficult when people want to fight you. and when you're like me, who has a tradition, the vice mayor and I have a Norse background, and in the genetic code of the Norseman is the berserker, and I carry that gene, so sometimes I can get a little intense, and I apologize for that, but my higher mind always has control. The point I'm getting at is tonight I was a little thrown off my game by somebody who said something very mean to me just because that's how they are, and that affects me, and I have to learn not to let those things affect me. But to clarify the point, I'd like to get into the fight science sometimes of why the naked berserker covered in mud with the battle axe is something more than a crazy man chasing you. But I talk about a job I had almost 30 years ago. I was a counselor at a home for delinquent youth, and we had 2 wards, an east and west ward. And when you have something like that, you always have the north and south conflict or whatever it is. And so I was in a staff meeting, and sitting around a table with all the staff, and someone comes running in saying, both wards have emptied, the boys are out, they're having a massive fight. So I ran to the door, the hall, and out into the courtyard where they were fighting. And I saw some staff. One person's going like this. One person's going like this. I just darted out there. I assessed the situation. I saw one kid in particular. He had a baseball bat. He was wheeling it, viciously swinging it. I got up to him as he was about to kill this young man. I pulled it out of the back of his hands, and I put him on the ground so hard that the earth shook. The fight stopped immediately. I wish we could do that here. I don't want the fighting. But I just want to say this. Mr. Mayor, I'm glad you're here. Mr. Rodeo, I have the greatest respect for you. If I need a plumbing contractor, I will give you a call. But when I sat at the debate last time, when the mayor and you got into the fight, you just looked bewildered, Mr. Rodeo, and the mayor didn't. That's the difference between you and he. That's the difference between you and me. And we need someone who is battle-tested and can stand up to that as mayor. And that is my point. Things are coming that we're not going to imagine, and we need a strong mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Omar Khalifa, did I pronounce that right? Okay, thank you.
They usually butcher him
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Paris and honorable council members. I had wished that we could have met tonight under different circumstances. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I'm here in response to the troubling remarks recently posted on Councilmember Marquez's Facebook page. Her comments were both uninformed and misguided, and were certainly unbecoming of an elected official. I won't attempt to educate you on the Islamic faith. Rather, I would like to share with you some truly disheartening statistics I obtained from the Los Angeles County Domestic Violence Council on their website earlier this afternoon. In years 2007 and 2008, Lancaster Sheriff's Department documented a total of 2,487 cases of domestic violence, which was the highest rate in Region 1 and the second most highest reported number of cases in the entire Los Angeles County, second to that of Lakewood, City of Lakewood. These numbers represent persons of all ethnicities and religions. Domestic violence is a serious matter for all communities. The council members' comments led me to believe that there's a general disconnect between Councilwoman Marquez and the citizens of this valley. Your comments were in reference to the murder of Mrs. Asia Hassan, in which her husband murdered her during a domestic dispute. Tying this incident to religious credence is appalling. However, for your information, ma'am, Mr. Matt Baker, a former preacher, was convicted this past week for giving his wife sleeping pills, smothering her to death with a pillow, and forging a suicide note so that he could be with his mistress. I thank you so much for your apology. However, I wish that it would have came a little bit sooner. I'm here requesting that there be an educational program for perhaps the members of this council and perhaps the community at large on domestic violence. Again, this is an issue which affects all corners of this community, not just particular faiths, not particular cultural backgrounds, but all persons. And these numbers, which I saw on the website today, the Domestic Violence Council's website, were truly troubling. Between the city of Lancaster and the city of Palmdale together, combined, we make up more than 60% of the domestic violence cases in Region 1. Our focus and our energy should be geared toward helping the many women and children who suffer on a daily basis in this valley from domestic violence. Thank you.
How big is Region 1?
Region 1 encompasses approximately 9 cities. That's the city of Lancaster, city of Palmdale, Santa Clarita, I believe the other backside of Region 5, Public Works Region 5, which is La Crescenta, Flint Ridge. So I would, if just a rough estimate, approximately 500,000 members, but it truly is concerning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where am I? Is it Saram Kabar? Kabir. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Saram Kabir. I'm recently here in response again to the comments that were made on the Facebook. My only concern really, ma'am, is that if you would take the time to maybe try to understand Islam. I actually recently just was discharged from the military. I was a Navy Corpsman of the Marines also, so I do understand what it means to, have the right to freedom of speech. But again, in your position, I also do believe that your comments, again, the community does really listen to that. So if you would, just a request, take the time to maybe come meet the Muslim community and just to understand what the religion of Islam is about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm assuming that invitation is to the rest of us also.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Ed Sains? Sains? Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. And ma'am, thank you. I was born in San Francisco, and I lived in Haight-Ashbury, and peace and love was what ruled. But being a recovering addict and alcoholic I'm going to read from the big book on page 417. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I'm disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, or thing or situation, some fact of life unacceptable to me, and I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation for being exactly the way it's supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I accept my alcoholism, I cannot stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. Shakespeare said that the world's a stage and all the men and women are merely players. He forgot to mention that I was the main critic, yada, yada, yada. Well, I remember when Look magazine said that Mayor Alioto was linked. And I remember when Mayor Feinstein wrote a proclamation for myself and my company for Potrero Hill Middle School. And as this gentleman spoke, when I went to a Christian boarding school for probated kids, the Shah of Iran's nephew was there. And in the East Bay where I grew up, they said, peace, love, kill the pigs, go naked in the woods, because people turn things around upside down. And as I came in here, the shuttle was going southeast. When I woke up this morning, the drone was going the other way. And then I saw another one right after that. go northeast. You know, I came to Lancaster in June 15th, and I lived at Randall Bunn Esquire, my cousin, and I was not prepared for this whatsoever, because my name is Ed Sains, and I'm from Future Productions, a multimedia marketing firm and musical production company that specializes in the blues. And next time you have a picture taken with my friend Steve and I, maybe you can sign that painting he did of you that was inside the gallery. Because my company wants to do benefits to refurbish the Gum Theater. My father's company that he worked for owned Stewart Hill Food Services also.
Thank you.
Chicken to the Sea pirate ship.
Thank you. Scott Palco?
For the people who are here that did not read Sherry's post, I'd like to read that for them right now. This is what the Muslim religion is all about. The belief, the beheadings, honor killings are just the beginning of what is to come in the USA. We are told that this is a small majority of Muslims in America, but it is truly what they are all about. And there's one thing, the fastest growing, and they are one of the fastest growing religions in the USA. You disrespect, honor them or their religion, and you should die. They are even blanket killing their own wives, daughters, because they are justified by their religion. This is going to become more and more normal. Notice his defense. He will pursue a defense combining that justification as well as psychic claims. I know of what is to come. I know, hard to believe. Now, the problem, Ms. Marquez, is if you think this is a misunderstanding, why'd you remove it from your Facebook page? That's number one. Number two, it seemed to me there was a couple of years ago where there was a Christian family that was killed by their husband, who was a Christian, and it seems to me that they didn't all, people don't all follow the same beliefs that that other Christians should die because of the fact that this one man, killed everybody else in his family. Well, you can't follow, somebody else's beliefs just because he happened to have killed a bunch of people. The only remedy that I see for this is that's, you're stepping down because you're completely disrespecting me, anybody else in this community. People have been recalled for less. Mr. Pearce tried to defend you a couple of weeks ago saying that you weren't a racist. This steps way beyond that. Between this and Mr. Smith designing mailers in the last election attacking Italian Americans, this is absurd. It's truly absurd. You're a very sick individual.
Kamal Al-Khatib.
I have a handout, please. I'm going to give it to...
Give it to the city attorney, please.
Can we start after they receive it, please? Because every second counts now. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. My name is Kamal Al-Khatib. I'm the President and the Chairman of the Board of the American Islamic Institute of Antelope Valley. I am here tonight to address the comment by Ms. Marquez on the Facebook that she made against some Muslim story about a man who beheaded his wife. This story doesn't have nothing to do with honor killing. It was a domestic violence story that Ms. Marquez converted. Even the story tells her that does not have anything to do with the honor killing. Islam does not condone honor killing. There is no word in Islam or in the Quran. I can challenge anyone to bring me anything from the text of the Quran, anything that condone killing of a human being, whether it's a wife or anybody, without a just cause. Ms. Marquez's comments are offensive, inaccurate, and inflammatory to the community. We don't hate you for that. We like to invite you to our mosque. My invitation still stands. I'd like to invite you to show you what religion of Islam is all about. I want to show you that your comments really, as a public official, as one who took an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States, you violated that oath by attacking a religion that is protected a class under the Constitution. You should not have that done, because you as a public official and all of us as leaders in the community, every word that we say means a lot. Your words could actually help or incite some people to commit crimes against Muslims. Right now we are working all together as a community, try to protect everybody. We're trying to bring the crimes down. We're trying to protect all of the citizens. Your comments actually are not only offensive to the Muslim community, are offensive to your constituents that elected you. I think you owe apology not only the Muslim community, you owe apology to all of you, the people who elected you, because that was not right. Islam is the religion of peace, and we have one God. Whether you're a Christian, whether you are a Jew, whether you have, it is one God who created all of us. A public official in this, public opinion, sometimes when you have freedom of speech, I agree with you. If you want to be a free rider and can do whatever you want, it is different when you are a public official. Your word means something. I have a press conference on this Friday at 10:30 in the mosque in Palmdale. I'd like to invite you and anybody from the council to be there to explain, and I hope that you offer your apology to the community, and maybe we can educate you about Islam. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the speaker cards. Moving to the Vice Mayor, you have a report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's in the packets. If there's any questions, we can go over it, but it's the AQMD report. Nothing else on that?
Well, that was an inspiring report.
I'll try to do better next time after I finish the book.
Oh, thank you. I gave the mayor a book on presentations.
No, you said you gave it to
Vice Mayor,
somebody else.
What?
You said you gave my book away. I got it on.
You had to buy your own.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Sorry. Okay. Anyone else? Any reports? I would like to thank the community for their participation this evening. I appreciate the demeanor and tenor of a very difficult situation. It was admirable. Thank you very much. I would normally say that my day is done and Carol, I'm coming home, but she wouldn't let me come alone tonight, and so she's here with me. Thank you for coming. And we are adjourned until Tuesday, February 9, 2010 at 5 p.m. Thank you all for coming.